So we just met with some incredible young women, some of whom's parents burned their books, who had no electricity, who walked hours to get to school. You've traveled around the world. What type of resilience does it take to be as successful as those
I
girls?
don't even think I know because when you meet these girls and you see what they go through, you see their hunger and their drive, and it's not just a question of one obstacle. It's obstacle after obstacle, day after day, year after year, and they just persevere. That's why it's important to shine a light on these young women, because imagine if we weren't investing in that kind of talent, that kind of determination, if we just let that be squandered because of cultural norms or lack of resources. So we need to tell their stories. We need for people around the world to see these girls up close, to go into their homes, to hear their stories, to have them share their voices with us.
You had a book come out this year, and I sat down with you in Chicago, and then I read afterwards that the night before your book came out, you thought like, this may be a flop.
Yeah.
I mean, when I read that, I was like, is there a typo? Is that?
No, that is absolutely true. I mean, we still post White House, we still, for the most part, live in a bubble. It's a little bit bigger of a bubble, but my interactions with the world are still kind of filtered. So I spent a year kind of locked away with a team of people talking and writing, and it was all very personal, and I let it all out, right? But I hadn't yet, until that point, deigned to step out on a stage and talk about what I had written. And I thought, well, maybe I'm crazy, maybe, my husband read the book and said, yeah, honey, that sort of, yeah, it's good, My mom liked it, I thought, well, everybody who knows me likes the book. Maybe they didn't want to hurt my feelings. So, yeah. And I share that because there's so many young girls, young people who think that folks in big places, big important people don't have doubts. And we do, even after leaving the White House, getting through 2 terms in the White House. Yeah, I still had doubts that maybe, just maybe, this whole book thing was just in my head. So it took a minute for me to know that it was going to be okay.
And it was okay. When we were talking with some of those young women about confidence, and I think you said something like, don't let the haters get to you, the doubters. Yeah. We live in a world where there's people that want to hate, whether they do it online from their basement or wherever it is. Does that stuff ever get to you?
You practice not letting it get to you. You have to develop protective tools for yourself. And I tell young people, first of all, don't read it. Don't go into that sphere and take in that energy, because that energy isn't even the full reflection of who we are as a people. One of the things I say that it's harder to hate up close. Social media creates a distance that allows people to say things that they probably don't even mean. So why take that in? Why breathe that air? Why drink that juice when there's so many other things that you can focus on? So over the span of my lifetime, it wasn't just the 8 years in the White House, but over the span of a full career and being a mother and all the worries that come with that, and having a solid marriage, you have to learn how to protect yourself emotionally and how to do the things that keep you feeling whole. And so I apply those whenever I can.
What are those things that keep you feeling whole?
Surrounding myself by positive energy, because for every hater out there, there are 10 other people who are there ready to give you an attaboy. So why don't we listen to those few naysayers and not let the real, true, positive energy in? So I learned to do that. I surrounded myself with people who support me, who remind me of my strengths, who build up my confidence. And some of it is just persevering and pushing through. What I told the girls earlier the one of the things I practice is just putting your head down and doing the work,
That book didn't write itself.
Yeah, let the work speak for itself. If you have something that you feel passionately about, you don't want to waste time trying to convince people that they should share your passion. Just focus, just do the work. show through your actions that this is meaningful, and that will distract you. If you're working hard, you just don't have time to let the haters in.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of working hard, I've read that your husband is writing his memoir on legal pads. And is that true? But also, are you showing him how you've sold a book?
What am I doing?
Are you showing him how the
Another
pros
book
do it?
sold. How are you doing over there? Barack definitely writes longhand on a yellow pad with pen to paper. So he's a different kind of writer than I could never work that way. I'm more of a talker. I have to be in a group and have conversations. I need people around to sort of, first of all, remind me what happens, because half of the stuff that happened over the 8 years, I'm like, was I ever there? So that's a better process for me. But yes, he is working on his presidential book, not his memoir, because he wrote that before, Dreams from My Father. So this is he is working on his account of his 8 years, his presidential, post-presidential book that all of the formers work on. So yes, it is a torturous process, but he's gotten feedback and it's looking good. It's going to be a wonderful book. So
you are traveling together. He's here. You're
are.
off to Malaysia to
Just
continue
the two
this
of
work.
us.
How?
And 20 other people, 2,500 other people.
What's that like? What's life on the road like?
You know, the beauty of post-presidential travel is that we aren't trying to do everything in like 2 days. All right, our normal trip to Asia in the White House would have been 3 countries on the other side of the world in 3 days, and then you get back home. Exhausting. Really no time to really be in the space and, enjoy and go to dinner or go to a temple or really take in the culture. I say I've traveled the world, but I spent 8 years in freight elevators and, going in back stairwells. Been to India twice, where both times where there were no people on the street. So it's not the normal way to travel, but on this trip, we're taking a little more time than we usually take, and we're doing it together. I mean, the truth is that for 8 years, Barack and I rarely traveled together because we didn't want to be away from the kids at the same time. And I was very clear about not being away from the kids for any longer than a week, maybe the most 10 days. So that sort of restricts a lot of the travel that we could do together. But now that we're empty nesters, there are no kids, we're just sort of living our lives and taking our time and taking some of the sights in and being with each other. It's kind of neat.
I can't believe y'all are empty nesters. I feel like it was just yesterday.
There are people saying that about you too, Jenna, and you're on your
and
third
I have
kid.
Kids. It's kind of scary. But I met your little girls when they were elementary age students, like some of the age of the little girls that we've seen here. And now you've just posted a picture, and they're poised women. How proud are you of them?
So proud, so proud. As mothers, we're always proud of our kids. I mean, it's an easy thing to tell me to talk about my girls and how wonderful I think they are because I'm their mom. But they've grown up in an awesome way, under circumstances that are highly unusual. To spend your childhood growing up before the eyes of the world, and to come out of that whole situation whole. They're kind, they're compassionate, they're smart, they're everything that I see in the girls that are here in Vietnam and around the world. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about girls' education, because I see myself, I see my daughters in these girls. They are no different. They have the same ambition, they have the same drive, they have the same hopes, they have the same possibilities. And how could I only invest in my girls and think that that was enough when there are millions of girls who deserve just as much?
It might have been born across the world.
Yeah, that's right.
And these girls that we met, are going to college or university students. You dropped your youngest at college.
Yeah.
Were there tears?
There were. We were really good about it. We didn't want to embarrass her because, she had roommates, and it was a typical drop off where, trying to make sure she brought too many shoes and too many jeans. She didn't really understand that you like get 3 drawers and half of a closet. I tried to tell her, but you know, I'm just her mother. Mom. I don't know anything. So we were rushing to get her done. So that distracted us in the room. I was more about organizing and getting in and out. So that held back the tears. But then we all 4 of us went to lunch. And it was at the end, after lunch, when we said that final goodbye, when we got into a car, me and Barack and Malia, who was there with us, and then Sasha drove off on her own and said that last goodbye, that's when we were like,
I'm trying not to.
It's like, this is it. It was not like she'd never left before, but there was a finality to it because they, you know, sending your kid off to college is the official start of their next chapter. And I'm excited for them, right? I'm excited for my girls to grow up and to become independent and to build lives of their own and to test out their dreams and their theories in the world. I'm excited for them. You know, but you feel a little melancholy that they will never be the little ones that sit on your lap and listen to your every word and look at you adoringly. Those days are over. So yeah, there were a few tears.
You just announced that you donated a lot of money from the merchandise of your book tour to the Girls Opportunity Alliance. So why was that something you felt like you should do?
Oh my goodness. You know, it's like, what's the saying? You put your money where your mouth is. And it was the plan all along because we did these big arena tours and you sort of need to have a t-shirt, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, you gotta have a t-shirt. It's a tour, right?
Was that, I mean, you were on tour. Did you
crazy.
feel like a rock star?
Crazy. No.
You were like at the AT&T and
star. I was just like, let's make sure we have some mugs and t-shirts, okay? So what are we gonna do with this money? Let's donate all of the proceeds to girls' education. Because here's the thing, when you come to countries like this, you understand that a little goes a long way. I mean, I want people out there to understand that a well-organized bake sale, the proceeds from that could change the life of a girl. And there are so many people in the States who feel like this issue is so overwhelming, and it is big. But when you're a little girl in a neighborhood and you hear about these girls around the world and you want to help, and you think, well, I don't have $500,000. Well, you don't need $500,000. Some of these school fees are $20, $50, $100. So imagine what we can do if I take my resources, put those on the table, and urge folks around us, around the world, in our country to match those dollars. I mean, that money will change a girl's life. So I couldn't ask people to contribute, to go to the GoFundMe page if I wasn't doing the same thing. So it was, it's a privilege. To whom much is given, much is expected. So
there is an election going on. I'm sure you know.
Yeah, I've heard.
You've heard about it. How involved do you plan to be?
You know, we just launched our When We All Vote campaign, you know, because one of the biggest ways I think I can help is to make sure that people understand the importance of voting and the power of voting in a democracy, and to make sure that all folks, particularly young people, minorities, women, are registered to vote and they're educated on how to get it done in their communities. So that's one way that we will be involved forever, because it's not just every 4 years when there's a presidential election. I mean, a lot of the legislative policies that impact people on the ground don't happen in the White House, they happen in the State House. So it's important for people to vote for their state senator or their council member and to know who the district attorney is and how they're elected. But there's not a lot of work to educate people on that importance, the importance of that knowledge and actively being an engaged citizen in a democracy. So that work we will do forever. When it comes to the candidate, we have to wait and see who's the victor. And then part of it is waiting to see what do they want our help or do they want my help? And well, you know, I don't assume. I didn't think I would sell a book, so I'm still that person. So I'll wait to be asked.
You know, you met with a lot of people through your book tour, and there's an impeachment proceedings going on. What do women say to you, and do you feel like this is something we can come back from?
It's surreal, I think, because the last impeachment hearing, a lot of young people weren't around for that. So this is all new. I don't think people know what to make of it. But do I think we can come back from it? Oh, yeah. I mean, as my husband points out, that's why it's important to understand history, because we've seen worse times. We've seen tough times in this country. You know, we've gone through depressions and wars and bombings and terrorist attacks, and we've gone through Jim Crow and, you know, a whole range of things in this country, and we've always come out stronger. And that's what we have to continue to believe, because what's our choice? To ball up in a corner and call it a day? Well, that's not fair to this next generation that's coming before us, that are counting on us to get this right. We owe it to them to stay focused and engaged and optimistic on their behalf. So yeah, we have to move beyond this, and we have to come together as a country. You know, we have to stop demonizing one another. It's not an us or them, it's not an R or a D. We are all here as part of this country. We all want the same things. Fundamentally, that's what you learn when you travel around the country on an international tour. You go to other places around the world, is that people all fundamentally want the same thing. You know, they want to be able to earn a decent living. They want to work. They want to be able to support their families. They want to be respected in their jobs. They want to be able to send their kids to college, perhaps, or make sure they have a decent education. They want to retire with a little dignity. That is true for everyone. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, what letter you have by you as with regard to your political party, what language you speak. We all want the same things. It's just sometimes that gets lost in the noise.
Speaking of, I think you're friends with both Ellen and my dad.
Yes.
And they sat next to each other, which caused some sort of online backlash. Your husband recently talked about the dangers of cancel culture.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say to people that want to be closer with each other? Or what do you say to that?
Well, this is part of what, for me, the book, my book, Becoming, was about. That when we drop our guards and we let ourselves become vulnerable, and that vulnerability allows us to share our true stories with each other, not the stuff on the surface, but the things that really connect us, like how we were raised, the values that we learned around the dinner table, the people who impacted us in our lives, the things that made us scared, the things that gave us courage. That when we share that truth, we can see ourselves in each other a little bit better.
No matter
who
right?
you are. You know, your dad is someone that you take the politics out of it. And I had an opportunity to sit by your father at funerals, the highs and the lows, and we shared stories about our kids and about our parents. Our values are the same. We disagree on policy, but we don't disagree on humanity. We don't disagree about love and compassion. I think that's true for all of us. It's just that we get lost in our fear of what's different. So yeah, we've got to work on that. But I think that this generation coming up, I think they know more than we did. Each generation knows a little bit more. While one can argue that social media is problematic, it's also opening young people up to new ideas, to each other, to other parts of the world. My hope is that they will be more open-minded and more secure in who they are, so that they can welcome other people's stories into the mix. But it has to begin with us being willing to be vulnerable and share who we really are with our neighbors, so that we're not strangers to each other. And that way we can't let somebody else from the outside tear us apart, because we know each other, right? I know you, I've seen you, we broke bread together, I may not agree with you, but I like you. You are my neighbor. That takes work and commitment.
Mm-hmm. You've had a remarkable year. How would you describe 2019 as you wrap it up in a few words?
Wow, 2019, surprising, exciting, fun, inspiring. Can't wait for the next chapter.
And what are you looking forward to in 2020?
Oh, more of this, more work on girls' education, shedding a light on great young people around the world, in the United States, building up that next generation of leaders, replacing ourselves, getting out of the way and letting some young people sit in some of these seats. Yeah, we'll be doing that, Barack and I, for the rest of our lives.
And do you need a vacation after your year?
Well, there'll be that. There's
some time with your
that.
girls?
Yeah, there'll be vacation. That goes without saying. There'll be lots of vacation.
Good.